She looked up from her phone, blinked twice, and said it like she was reading off a goddamn script. "You can't even satisfy me." Not screamed, not whispered, just delivered, like a line from some trashy show where the wife's empowered and the husband's an idiot in a recliner. Except I wasn't in a recliner. I was sitting across from her, halfway through a sentence about refinancing the damn car loan. She didn't even look at me after she said it. She just smirked. One of those half-cocked little smug things that crawls under your skin and lays eggs. I stared at her. I remember the ceiling fan behind her head. I remember the hum of the fridge. I remember thinking, did I mishear her? Then she waved her hand dismissively. "Don't pout. You know it's true. That line right there? That's the one that cracked it. Not the insult, the casualty of it." I got up without a word, walked down the hallway, grabbed a pillow, slept on the couch. Not because she banished me there, but because I needed space. Not from her, from myself, from the heat crawling up my neck, from the quiet storm inside my head that whispered, "Why did she feel safe enough to say that to you?" If you've ever been in that spot, the exact moment your wife stops seeing you as a man and starts seeing you as furniture, you know what I'm talking about. And if you're one of the 97% of you guys out there listening without hitting subscribe, now's a good time to do it. It helps the team bring more stories like this one to life. Because trust me, this one doesn't go where you think. Back to that couch. I didn't toss. I didn't turn. I planned. See, the thing about being the boring husband is that you get overlooked. People assume you don't know things, that you don't notice, that you're not capable of cold precision. And that night, as I stared at the ceiling, I realized just how many things she didn't notice. She didn't notice how every bill in that house was in my name. She didn't notice that I filed our taxes separately last year. She didn't notice that her car was technically leased through my LLC. She didn't notice the post-it I moved from one folder to another in the filing cabinet last week. One that marked the point of no return. But I did. I thought about how she laughed at me at dinner parties. How her friends used to look at each other when I brought up budgeting. How I once heard her say, drunk at a wedding, "Oh, he's safe. That's why I married him." Safe. Like I was a damn insurance policy. So yeah, I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't go full alpha and throw plates or demand an apology. I just unplugged something in my mind. She thought that insult would wound me. It did more than that. It woke something up. Because that night I started counting. Every receipt, every favor, every bill, every insult. I counted the time she called me predictable in front of our niece. I counted the time she flirted with that contractor we hired to fix the porch, while I paid his invoice. I counted the time she rolled her eyes when I brought her flowers and said, "Is it our anniversary or something?" I counted until I reached a number so high, I stopped seeing her as a wife. She became a ledger, a closed balance sheet with a red line running straight through it. You ever see a man go quiet? Not because he's lost, but because he's done counting? That was me, and she didn't even notice. The next morning, she walked past me in the kitchen like nothing happened, like she hadn't spat that venom the night before and watched it land. She poured her overpriced oat milk into her overpriced smoothie blender and tapped her nails on the counter like I was a ghost just passing through. I kissed her on the forehead. She blinked, surprised. That alone should have warned her. "Have a good day," I said. She replied with a distracted eyes already drifting back to her phone. That was the last day I operated on instinct. From that moment on, I ran on calculus. At work, while the rest of the office was arguing about Q4 projections and vendor miscommunication, I was busy pulling up tabs, mortgage portal, utility dashboards, ISP logins, the bank's partner site for my corporate Amex, my name, my email, my payments. You know what I realized? There wasn't a single essential service in that house that didn't run through me. She lived in a kingdom built on my credit spine and thought she was the queen. But I was the architect, the treasurer, and the one who paid the damn guards at the gate. She once laughed when I mentioned budgeting. "God, you're such a spreadsheet," she said. That spreadsheet just became her noose. I didn't cancel anything, not yet. That would have been too loud, too obvious. I just changed a few emails, A few passwords. Took my name off the joint checking and redirected my paycheck into a new account. At a bank she didn't even know I used. I kept paying for now. But I set reminders, markers, exit signs. 2 weeks. That was my soft countdown. I pulled up her credit card statements. The one she used to buy those self-care packages. That avocado silk robe she wore when she ignored me. That fake wood aesthetic junk from whatever influencer she copied this week. And, curiously, a series of Uber rides that didn't match her work schedule. I bookmarked those, and then I went home, ate dinner with her, nodded when she told me her coworker Michelle was getting divorced because her husband wasn't emotionally mature. Oh, the irony. She laughed at that one. I laughed too, in a way that made her pause for half a second. Then came bedtime. She asked if I wanted to try again, like intimacy was a coupon I could redeem if I behaved. I smiled. Maybe tomorrow. She rolled over, whispered, "That's what I thought." I stared at the ceiling again. But this time I wasn't searching for answers. I was confirming calculations. The beauty of silence is how threatening it becomes when the other person expects noise. She thought my calm meant surrender. But silence from a man like me isn't weakness. It's the system rebooting before a hard reset. By the end of the week, the first soft switch went dark. The Hulu subscription. She noticed, called out from the living room, "Hey, did you change the password?" "Nope," I said, sipping my tea. "Must be a glitch." She shrugged it off. Reset the Wi-Fi, which I'd already rerouted through my business account. She couldn't even access the admin settings. The next day, I forwarded a little notification from the bank to a burner inbox. Notice of updated billing preferences. Then I deleted the shared grocery app. Not a word. Just quiet calibration. That house, that life, that illusion of control she waltzed around in, all of it was wired through one source, and she just called that source unsatisfying. Funny thing about infrastructure, you don't notice it until it breaks. And I was about to let her experience a full-on blackout. She wore pity like a new perfume, subtle at first, then reeking. "He's going through a phase," she told her yoga friend over brunch. I overheard it on speaker while she was in the bathroom. She was sending a voice message, smirking into her mimosa like she just diagnosed me with male fragility. Midlife crisis, probably. He's been weird, like super sensitive. I mean, I joked and now he's all distant. It's like, grow up. Then a chuckle. Her sister chimed in on another call later that week. Well, maybe he finally realized he peaked at 40. They laughed. Wine clinked. I didn't say a word. But that night, after she fell asleep on the couch watching reruns of a show she said I just didn't get, I picked up her phone. Not to snoop, don't need to. Just to see how bold she'd gotten. There it was. A voice note, still open on the screen. Sent 2 hours earlier. I mean, how hard is it to be a man? Just pay the bills and shut up. She said it like a punchline. Except the punchline was coming. And it wasn't a joke. I sat at my desk, opened the joint account, and drained it. Not recklessly. Not in some dramatic zero-balance flourish. Just precise. My paycheck? Rerouted. Into a new account. My name only. In a bank I'd used years ago, still active, still clean. She wouldn't notice. Not yet. The joint account still had a few thousand left. Enough to buy her another week of brunches and bulk hair products she never finished. But the income? The inflow? Gone. Next, I paused every bill. Every single one. Not canceled, just cut the arteries. No autopay. No paperless delivery. I wanted the envelopes to start piling up. I wanted her to feel the slow suffocation of the world she thought ran on autopilot. The mortgage, the car note, the utilities, her phone, even the gym membership she used to flirt with that trainer who gives great form tips. All suspended in quiet stasis. I didn't shout. I didn't warn. Because men like me, we don't give thunder. We give gravity. And gravity was about to reintroduce itself to her soft little orbit. She called me safe once. Told her cousin during a game night, "I like knowing I don't have to worry. He's reliable." What she meant was he's invisible. That kind of man, the one who plans the trip, pays the taxes, fixes the cabinet, changes the filters, builds the net under every stunt she pulls. He's just supposed to keep doing it. Without recognition, without ego. And when you finally stop, they don't understand it at first. They think it's a glitch, a phase, tantrum. But this wasn't a tantrum. This was a switch, a soft reset turning into a hard detachment. At dinner, she said, "I noticed the credit card didn't go through for my nail appointment. You switch banks or something?" I looked up from my plate. No idea. Maybe fraud alert. Ha! She popped a shrimp into her mouth and went back to scrolling. No gratitude, no concern, just assumption. Because I was the background music to her life. Always playing, never noticed until it stops. She told her friends I was sulking. She told her mom I was hormonal. She told her coworker I was probably cheating. Me, the guy who paid for her braces when she was 33, who made her protein shakes every morning while she flirted with other men under the guise of networking. She didn't even realize the Real affair was between her and her comfort. And I just filed for divorce from that comfort on her behalf. No confrontation, no closing statement, just silence and unpaid bills. It began with a buffering circle. Not the metaphorical kind, the literal one. That spinning little wheel of modern doom, parked smack in the middle of her 75-inch flat screen. She was watching one of those real estate shows where influencers pretend they're buying their forever home with a suspiciously vague job title and a $2 million budget. She cursed, backed out, tried again, buffering. She yelled into the kitchen, "Wi-Fi's acting up again. Can you reset the router?" I glanced up from my book. "Might be out. You should check with the provider." She didn't move for a few seconds, just blinked at me like I'd spoken in Morse code. Then, with a huff, she pulled up her phone to call customer service. Line disconnected. She tried again. Straight to an automated message. "The account associated with this number has been closed." She froze. "What the hell? Could be a billing thing?" I offered, sipping my coffee. "Happens sometimes." She furrowed her brow. "Autopay must have glitched." "Yeah." I nodded. "Glitches happen." The next day, she went to dry her hair. The lights in the bathroom flickered like an exorcism was about to begin. She blamed the bulb, then the hairdryer, then the old wiring in this place. Which was funny, since we just rewired it last fall. Paid cash. Or rather, I did. She finally caught the pattern when the third warning notice landed on the doormat, fluttering in with the breeze like a paper omen. Final notice. Rent payment past due. Her lipstick smeared on the rim of her wine glass as she read it out loud, voice wobbling like a bad actress mid-audition. "What is this? We've never missed a rent payment in our lives." I muttered, flipping through a magazine. "Maybe you should call the landlord." She did. Put it on speaker like she always does when she wants to perform outrage. The landlord, who's known me for 8 years, sounded tired. "Ma'am, the payment account was closed. We sent 2 digital notices. Nothing came back." "Well, I didn't close it," she snapped. "My husband handles the bills." A pause. Then, "We were told to direct all future correspondence to a new address. The account was formally terminated." She turned to me, eyes wide, face drained. "Did you do something?" I took a slow sip of my coffee, let the silence stretch. Then, with a calm so cold it steamed off the mug, I said, "You said I don't satisfy you. Figured I'd stop trying. No yelling, no drama, just the facts." She blinked. Once, twice. "You're punishing me?" "No," I said. "You just made it clear I wasn't doing a good job. So I stopped." She stood there in her overpriced robe, the one she ordered as a treat, after mocking me in front of her book club. That robe used to be white. It looked gray now, standing in the daylight of her unraveling. She started pacing, muttering about her cards, her subscriptions, her stylist, each one a thread fraying in her perfectly manicured life. And the thing is, I wanted her to notice, but not right away. This wasn't about revenge. It was about silence. Letting her sit in the stillness of her assumptions until the walls began to whisper. Until she realized the hum of the fridge, the glow of the lights, The comfort of warm water and fast Wi-Fi, those weren't constants. They were choices, my choices, and now they were gone. She called her sister that night, whispered that something was off. He's different, cold. Her sister said, maybe he's depressed. Maybe. Or maybe he was just done. Either way, she didn't ask me directly again, because she knew the answer, and it scared her more than a shutdown router ever could. It took 2 more weeks for the next domino to fall, right on her freshly manicured toes. It started with a cart full of skincare products. Some influencers' morning glow must-haves. She clicked checkout, typed in the card info, and got the dreaded red text. Declined. She blinked. Tried again. Maybe a typo. Declined. Then she tried the backup. The card she called her emergency fund, but used anytime Sephora had a sale. Declined. One more. The one she swore she never touches unless it's travel-related. Declined. She stared at the screen like it was gaslighting her. Because for a woman like her, it had to be the website's fault. The server. The Wi-Fi. Mercury in retrograde. Anything but reality. She tried calling the number on the back of the card. I was in the kitchen pretending to read the news, but really just listening. Every sentence from her got higher pitched. What do you mean overdrawn? I didn't authorize any charges like that. Well, how could it be closed? I never closed it. Then came the phrase I'd been waiting to hear. Wait, what's my credit score now? She didn't say it out loud. She whispered it. Like maybe if she kept it under a decibel, it wouldn't be real. Then she hung up and stood there, frozen. She didn't say anything for a while, just sort of drifted around the house like a Roomba with no wall sensors. She opened drawers, checked old mail, tried to log into her credit monitoring app. Locked out. I watched her do all this with the same look I'd give someone trying to fix a sink by yelling at it. Later that day, at the salon, her weekly sanctuary, her stylist pulled her aside. Quiet voice. Hey, just a heads up, your card didn't go through. Again. The word again hit her like a slap, because it meant this wasn't invisible anymore. It was public. Someone new. Worse, someone she wanted to impress. She fake laughed it off, said something about the bank being annoying, and left mid-session with foil still in her hair. She walked into the house like it was a crime scene, slammed her bag down. What the hell is going on? I looked up from my laptop, calm, unbothered. What do you mean? My cards, my credit score, everything's tanking. I just got locked out of my own damn account. Did you call customer service? I asked, sipping my coffee. I did. They said the payments stopped. Balances maxed. One of them's in collections already. I leaned back. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed like she was bracing for a confession. Was this you? She asked. I set my cup down. You said I don't satisfy you, I said. So I stopped trying. The silence was deafening. You could hear the clock ticking behind her. Her face went through 6 expressions in 3 seconds. Confusion, denial, outrage, and finally fear. You, what does that even mean? Are you saying you did this? You tanked my credit. I shrugged. I didn't tank anything. I just stopped paying for things you never once acknowledged. Things you assumed would always be there. You're punishing me. No, I'm correcting a mistake. She sat down slowly, as if the air had suddenly gotten heavier. Because it had. Reality was sitting across from her, sipping coffee and not raising its voice. I handled everything, I said. The mortgage, the utilities, the credit cards. I even paid your copay when you didn't want to ruin your manicure swiping at the clinic. She blinked, slowly. And you mocked it? I said, my voice flat. Mocked me. She stared at the floor, the weight of entitlement beginning to slip through her fingers like wet sand. It was never about the money. She had no idea how deep the dependency ran until the lights started flickering, until the card stopped working, until the salon girl gave her that look. She thought she was the center of the orbit. Turns out, she was cargo on a ship I'd already started steering away. And now the iceberg wasn't theoretical. It was itemized, color-coded, and printed in 12-point Times New Roman. She came storming into the kitchen like a thunderclap in heels, her face contorted in disbelief wrapped in rage. "You're ruining my life," she shrieked. Not said. Shrieked. Like a banshee who just found out her Wi-Fi was tied to my bank routing number. I didn't flinch. I didn't even look up immediately. Just finished stirring my tea, placed the spoon down with surgical precision, and opened the drawer to my left. I slid the file across the counter like it was a chess move I'd been waiting years to play. She stared at it. Didn't touch it. "What's this?" "Start with page 1, I said, sitting down. Calm. Collected. Composed like a man who's already read the end of the book. She opened it. Inside were 12 years of paper cuts she'd never noticed. Gas bills, electric, mortgage stubs, health insurance payments, co-pays from her endless dermatology visits, trips she claimed she deserved and worked hard for, flights, hotels, spa charges, the surprise birthday party she never thanked me for, the car I leased under my business account to protect her from liability, the time I bailed out her brother from his payday loan nonsense, without telling her, just to spare her the stress. Every single receipt, itemized, dated, neatly filed. I'd even included the $89 she spent on a psychic reading that told her to be more bold and independent. I watched her thumb through it, slowly at first, then faster, each page a jab to the ribs of her delusion. Her lips parted. She didn't speak, so I did. "You built nothing," I said. "You just dressed nicely inside what I paid for." She slammed the folder shut like it burned her fingers. Her face twisted. "This is vindictive," she snapped. "You're trying to humiliate me." "No," I said with a smile so calm it cut. "I'm finished." The words hung in the air like the final note of a song she never learned the lyrics to. She looked around the kitchen, our kitchen. Granite counters she picked out after I gave her the budget. Appliances I upgraded while she was on that girls' retreat last fall. The espresso machine she bragged about to her friends but never once cleaned. Everything in this room screamed luxury. None of it had her name on the invoice. Her eyes darted toward the fridge. The same fridge she once taped a note on that said, "You forgot the milk," like I was a grocery in turn. I leaned back in the chair and said nothing more, because at this point silence had become my weapon of choice. She paced. "You've been planning this," she hissed. "This whole time, you've been sitting there, keeping tabs like some creepy accountant." "You're right," I replied. "I am an accountant, of sorts. I kept the receipts while you kept the attitude." Her voice cracked. "This is petty. Petty is letting someone mock you for years while you pay to keep the lights on in their fantasy life. This," I gestured to the file, "this is documentation." She sat down, and for the first time in over a decade, she looked small. Not physically, just diminished. She whispered, "You're not the man I married." "No," I nodded. "That man was naive, kind, hopeful." She said nothing, and I wasn't going to fill the silence for her this time. She tried one last jab. "What are you going to do? Leave me with nothing?" I tilted my head. "No, I'm going to leave you with exactly what you brought in." Then I stood, took my tea, walked out of the kitchen. Behind me, I heard the folder open again. I didn't need to turn around. I knew the page she'd land on. The one with her name. The one with the credit card I took out under my name to pay off her debt 6 years ago, after she maxed out her own limit for the holidays. And now, the card's closed, paid off, gone. Just like my patience. Not revenge, not spite, just closure. Printed, dated, and alphabetized. She always said she didn't need anyone. That independence was her identity. That women should build empires, not depend on men. Funny how the first thing she lost wasn't money. It was company. The first to go was Taylor, her oldest friend, the one she used to gossip with over overpriced bottomless mimosas. They'd planned a couple's trip to Napa Valley with Taylor and her husband. But when the deposit was due, my wife texted, "Can you cover me this week?" Taylor didn't reply. A day later, my wife opened Instagram and saw the photos. Taylor and her husband, and two other couples. Smiling, clinking glasses. Captions full of hashtags like #grateful and #newscircles. She stared at the screen like it betrayed her. Then came the brunch group, her sacred Sundays, for women who'd shared Botox recommendations and tips on manifesting luxury without ever earning it. One of them, Jenna, was married to our banker. Apparently, Jenna had seen the internal notes. Not the numbers, just the flags. The kind of whispers that make banks call in courtesy checks. Default risk. Credit monitoring requested. Client unstable. Income discrepancy. Those phrases don't stay in files. They pass between wine glasses and sideways glances. The next brunch? Quietly canceled. No explanation. The group chat slowed to a trickle. Then silence. She blamed it on scheduling. People are just busy. But she started checking her phone more often, waiting for the "let's reschedule" message that never came. One afternoon, she wandered into a boutique downtown, the one she used to drop 4 digits in without blinking, the one where the owner once called her the muse of spring inventory. She picked out a pair of shoes, went to pay, card declined. Again, the owner smiled tightly. "Want me to hold them for you?" She forced a laugh. "Oh, I'll be back. Just bank shuffling nonsense." The owner nodded. "Of course. And tell him I say hi." "Who?" "Your husband," she said without blinking. "He helped me restructure our business account. Brilliant guy." That was the moment the mask cracked. Her cheeks flushed, not from embarrassment, but from recognition. The world she walked through wasn't hers. It was rented, maintained, sponsored by the man she thought she'd outgrown. She left without the shoes. Tried to call 3 friends that night. Straight to voicemail. 2 days later, she ran into my sister outside the pharmacy. I wasn't there. My sister said she looked like she hadn't slept. She tried to cry. Said, "He's punishing me. It's like I don't even exist to him." My sister just raised an eyebrow. "Still think he wasn't enough?" That shut her up. See, my sister never liked her. But she never said it. Not until now. Because now there was no point pretending. The empire she thought she ruled was made of borrowed bricks and charm borrowed from my name. And without that name, she wasn't feared. Or envied. She was empty. The friends who laughed at her jokes? Gone. The groups that echoed her complaints about me? Muted. The brand ambassador gig she wanted so badly? Quietly dropped. Turns out the PR rep follows me on LinkedIn. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't sabotage. It was just gravity. You talk enough trash about the man paying the bills, and eventually people ask what you've actually done yourself. And when they look, they see the same thing I saw, a perfectly dressed echo, waiting for someone else to fill the silence. She tried something she hadn't in years. Effort. That evening, I came home to the smell of food, actual food. Not her usual air-fried kale chips or microwavable quinoa bowls she posted on Instagram for clout. Real food. Garlic. Butter. Meat searing in a pan like the old days, when we still thought forever was a shared recipe, not a silent contract. Candles. Plates set. Wine poured. She even wore that red dress I once complimented before she laughed and said, "You only like it because it's tight." Now it hung on her like a surrender flag dressed as seduction. She looked up as I walked in, smiled, forced, nervous, like a job applicant waiting on a decision she already knew was coming. "Hey, you're home early," she said, cheerful and brittle. "No," I replied. "You're just not distracted." She gestured to the table. "I made dinner. Thought maybe we could talk." I nodded, sat down, cut into the steak. Medium rare, my preference. Not a word while we ate. She tried light chatter. Weather. Her coworker's wedding. A crazy video someone sent her on Facebook. I just nodded. Fork. Knife. Sip. Repeat. Finally, she set her utensils down. I didn't mean what I said. I paused. Looked up. "Which part?" I asked. She blinked. "That I mocked you? Or that you think I'm worthless?" Silence. She looked down, picked up her napkin, set it back down. Her hands trembled. I just wanted to hurt you, she finally said. I nodded. You did. Then I stood. She didn't reach for me. She didn't cry. She just sat there, her smile dissolving like sugar in boiling water. Can we fix it? She asked, voice so quiet it nearly vanished into the clink of silverware. I walked past her, stopped at the sink, washed my hands, dried them slowly, turned back to her. You spent years teaching me what you valued, I said. Attention, applause, money, appearances. And the moment I stopped clapping, you called me useless. She shook her head, eyes wide. That's not. I raised a hand, not to silence her, just to say enough. You didn't care what I gave. You cared that it looked effortless. And when I asked for anything in return, even decency, you handed me mockery dressed as honesty. I turned toward the hallway. She whispered, so what now? I didn't answer, because there was nothing left to discuss. I left her there. At the table she dressed up like a stage, hoping one nice meal would rewrite years of contempt. Left her with the dishes, the candles flickering down, her reflection in the wine glass across from an empty chair. She'd finally confessed, but I'd already buried the need for her apology. Some things don't break all at once. They rot quietly, until one day they simply fall apart in your hands. And when they do, you don't mourn them, you just let go. The letter came in a plain white envelope, like bad news always does. No glittery congratulations text, no gold emblem, no targeted offer. Just her name, printed clean and sterile. She opened it at the kitchen island, our old kitchen island, though by then I'd stopped eating there. Her hands trembled before she even read the first line. Dear client, your credit file has reached critical risk status. She read it twice. Her knees buckled. She sat down hard, the stool screeching like it was protesting the weight of her denial. Default. Her credit rating had flatlined. She called the bank, voice cracking like a kid who finally realized Santa wasn't real. I don't understand. It can't be this bad. There has to be a mistake. The agent was professional, cold, detached in the way only someone who's seen 1,000 financial collapses can be. Ma'am, your payment history reflects multiple missed accounts, all under your social. Your utilization ratio has exceeded 98%. You've breached several creditor thresholds. At this point, we advise speaking with a credit counselor. How long? Until it's fixable? Pause. Well, with aggressive budgeting and full compliance, 10 to 12 years. Silence. I was upstairs, reading. I could hear her breathe through the vents. That shallow, panicked kind of inhale that says the floor just dropped. She didn't even hang up properly. Just dropped the phone on the granite. And then came the other call. Not to her. To me. My lawyer. Hey, got a flag on one of your old joint lines. Remember that card you added her on years ago? The black one? I asked. Yeah. Looks like it's being reviewed. She used it after separation under false context. Purchases flagged as gifts for a third-party male, non-family. Total's not huge, but if we wanted to, we could argue misappropriation. Technically, theft. I said nothing, just stared out the window. She was still using that card? For spa packages, jewelry, a men's leather bag from Saks, and, he cleared his throat, 2 hotel stays under her name. You want to go there? I didn't answer for a few seconds. I remembered the card. I remembered activating it for her birthday, handing it to her like a man handing trust without a receipt. I remembered the time she said, "It's nice not having to think about money." I remembered the receipts I never asked for. Do you want to press charges? My lawyer asked again. Another pause. Then I said, no. Sure. Yeah. Let her build something on her own for once. It wasn't mercy. It wasn't forgiveness. It was freedom. See, I could have dragged her through court. Could have frozen what was left of her assets. Tied her to another courtroom bench. Made her name even more radioactive than it already was. But that would have kept me tethered. And I wasn't here to win a war. I was here to end one. Let her rebuild. Let her call her high school guidance counselor and cry about budgeting apps and debt snowballs. Let her sit in plastic chairs at credit counseling offices and explain why she has no collateral. Let her discover what it means to truly be independent. Because now, every latte she orders, every phone bill, every rental application, it's hers. And not a single one of them will ask, "Is your husband covering this?" No, her husband left the stage. Quietly, without applause, just a ledger closed, and a final decision made. 6 months passed like a slow exhale. No contact, no drama, no updates. The silence had stopped being a punishment a long time ago. It had become a preference. I moved. New apartment. Smaller, neater. A place where nothing reminded me of her voice echoing down the hall like entitlement in heels. No reminders of the robe she used to wear while critiquing my lack of ambition. No monogram towels she insisted on, then forgot existed. I didn't block her. Didn't chase her. I erased her passcode from my life like a corrupt file. So when the letter arrived, unmarked, no return address, just my name in handwriting I once recognized by scent. It took me a moment to decide whether to open it at all. It was a single page. No greeting. No sign-off. Just centered, almost apologetic in its brevity. I lost everything. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were that strong. No embellishments. No manipulation. Not even a stamp of her old condescension. Just defeat. Quiet and handwritten. I stared at it for a long time. Thought about tossing it. Burning it. Framing it. Instead, I wrote back. One sentence. I was always that strong. You just stopped looking. I didn't include an address. No return name. No postage. I folded it. Walked 2 blocks. Dropped it in a mailbox I'd never used before. Let it float through the system like one final whisper. She never heard from me again. But I know what she hears now. Every time a bill arrives and there's no one to quietly pay it. Every time her card declines at a place where they used to know her name. Every time she sits at brunch and checks her phone and no one responds. Every time her reflection catches her off guard, looking just a little more tired than she remembers. She hears me, not my voice, not my footsteps, just the absence. Because I didn't yell. I didn't throw things. I didn't demand closure or beg for change. I just stopped. Stopped explaining. Stopped forgiving. Stopped paying. Stopped carrying. And that's the part she never understood. Strength isn't in the reaction. It's in the restraint. And now, her whole life is built on the ruins of a man she thought she could belittle safely. Turns out, when a man like that stops, the whole world goes with him.